We're pulling out into the Hudson River, which is brackish water. The fresh water, the salt water from the harbor floods on top of the fresh water of the river. So we got salt water on top, fresh water on the bottom. Combination is called brackish water. A little closer off to the left is the gray aircraft carrier called the Intrepid, which is now the Museum of Air, Space, and Sea Travel. It has an original space shuttle and a Concorde airplane as part of the museum. Where did Sully land his plane? In 2009, there was an emergency water landing on the Hudson River of a U.S. Airways passenger plane, and it landed just between us and the George Washington Bridge off to the left at Pier 90. The plane ran into a flock of Canadian geese moments after it left LaGuardia Airport. On the Manhattan waterfront, or on the Manhattan skyline, you might be looking for the Empire State Building. It was the tallest building in the world for 50 years, and it reigned over the Manhattan skyline. But more recently, building technology has advanced, and now we have a lot of skyscrapers that block it from sight, which I think is really sad. I think the city should have limited the height of buildings so that we would always see the Empire, but it's too late now. The Empire State Building was completed in 1931, ahead of schedule and under budget, which sounds great, but it also means that no one was moving in because they did not know that the space would physically exist yet. So it got nicknamed the Empty State Building. My grandfather worked in the Empire State Building, and his favorite memory from working there was that one day he ran into the President of the United States in the elevator, George Bush Sr., and he got to say, "Good afternoon, Mr. President." And that was the end of the story. So the Empire State Building is on 5th Avenue in the middle of the island. 5th Avenue was originally called Middle Road. So it'll come in and out of view on our trip today. The island of Manhattan has 1.8 million people living on it. Up here at Chelsea Piers, and the next couple of piers down is where the big ships coming in from Europe would have landed in the late 1800s to the mid 1900s. Ships like the Titanic would have landed up here. And if you were a first or second class passenger immigrating to the United States, you could just walk off the boat and become an American, no question asked. If you bought the cheap seats like Leonardo DiCaprio at the bottom of the Titanic, you'd have to get processed before you went river. And on the New Jersey side, would come alongside the Erie Lackawanna train station and ferry depot. You can just hop on the ferry across the right now. The New York River is one of the largest natural harbors in the world. It's 5 miles by 4 miles. So when the Europeans first arrived in the 1600s, they said there were billions and billions of oysters in the harbor. On the New Jersey waterfront coming up is a white face called Water Soul by Homemade Plaza. He wanted you to pause and listen to the message of the river. So she's got her finger to her lips like, we could pause and listen to the message of the river right now. Practice those listening skills we talked about during the safety speech. What does the river have to say? Yeah. I think the river says, "Clean me up, please, clean me up." We're working on a river, billion oysters coming your way. On either side of the riverbank, as we're coming by, there's these round towers. These are the ventilation towers for the Holland Tunnel. So when Clifford Holland was designing the Holland Tunnel underneath the riverbed, he ran into the problem of carbon monoxide poisoning from cars in the tunnel. And he figured he could have put enough fans in these towers to filter out the air every 90 seconds, and that is exactly what he did. On the New Jersey side, we're now alongside Jersey City. Jersey City is one of the fastest growing cities in the nation. 30 years ago, you never would have confused it for Manhattan, but now there's so many skyscrapers that pencil it. It's Audrey left. She's the only one home. For those of you on the Manhattan side, you're getting a nice view of One World Trade, or the Freedom Tower, the big building with the spire on top. And if you can't see it right now, you'll definitely see it when we're coming back from the Statue of Liberty. That'll be an opportunity to take a glance at it. One World Trade is the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere. It's 1,776 feet. We're making our way to the Statue of Liberty. She's wearing green today. We're matching. Memory mesh. She's made out of 350 pieces of hand-hammered copper. When she first arrived, she was the color of a new penny, and then the copper patina, which is the green that you see. So we're still at 5 minutes now, but I got sorry. Abolition of slavery. She arrived in 1886, color of a new penny, but she developed that patina, the green that you see. If you see the green pyramid building in Manhattan, that's also copper, and that's the Manhattan Bank Trust. On the New Jersey side, we're coming alongside the Colgate clock. There used to be a toothpaste factory there, and now it's not. They left their clock behind, and it is now the largest freestanding clock in the world. It's 50 feet in diameter, which means every time the minute ends 1 minute, it goes a little over 2.5 minutes. And I use time to figure that out. So I'm proud of myself that I remember how to use time. To the left, the right of the Colgate clock is the Goldman Sachs. After the millions of immigrants came through Ellis Island, they had an opportunity to take a ferry boat either back to Manhattan or to the New Jersey train station, which is the building of the little clock tower on the right side of the boat. At the train station, if you didn't speak English, the people who worked there would write your destination down on a piece of paper and pin it to your jacket to make sure you got off the train in the right place. I would love to think that was out of the kindness of their hearts, but I know New Yorkers, they're really just looking out for the guys in California, make sure those trains were empty by the time they got there, and just have people who didn't speak English still on them. The New Jersey train station. The artist behind the Statue of Liberty, Bartholdi, one of the first models he showed Americans of the statue. The Americans had two complaints. The first was that she had Vegemites. The artist had designed her outwarded mistress, so she probably did have Vegemites. And the Frenchman was asked to redesign her face after the least enticing woman he could think of. And he chose his mother, Charlotte Bartholdi. And if you look her up online, she looks very much like George Washington, which is a very appropriate face for the Statue of Liberty. The other complaint that the Americans had was that she had chains in her left hand. And having just abolished slavery, the Americans were a little sensitive to chains, so they said no chains, Bartholdi. So he dropped the chains and put a keystone in her left arm. The keystone reads July 4th, 1776 in Roman numerals, the date of the United States independence. And there are still chains at her feet. Her right heel is lifted. She's in motion, walking forward into liberty, out of bondage. She's got a torch in her right hand. The flame is gold leaf, so it's not the patina like the rest of the statue. And then the crown has 7 points from the 7 seas and has some windows in it. There's a spiral staircase going all the way up to the crown on the inside, which is still open to the public, but you have to get a ticket way in advance. The inside is designed by Gustav Eiffel of Eiffel Tower fame. The Statue of Liberty is 151 feet tall, the green part, and the pedestal is 150 feet tall, the stone part. About 22 stories, which could dwarf the 8-story city of Manhattan back in the day. So they have her out on the island facing east towards France as a reminder of the friendship, and so she's a little less intimidating out here. We're coming by Ellis Island on the right side of the boat. About 1 in 6 Americans could trace their ancestry back to Ellis Island. They digitized all their records, so if you want to look up anything online, you can, ellisisland.org. The main building is open to the public as a museum. They have an audio guided tour. And the rest of the island is abandoned administrative and hospital buildings, which they do have a hard hat tour of, but it's like $95 a person. The game has to be 14 years old, but it's also very cool. Then you were famous, so everybody wanted that. And even school children were donating nickels and pennies and dimes to get their name on the front page of the newspaper. They raised over $80,000 with donations of less than $1 each. People got their name on the front page of the newspaper. And Joseph Pulitzer, brilliant man, he sold a lot of newspapers because people wanted to buy the paper with their name on the front page. Joseph Pulitzer and the Statue of Liberty pedestal, the original goat hunt. Off to the left side of the boat in the distance, up ahead, you'll see the Verrazano Bridge connecting Brooklyn on the left with Staten Island on the right. There's a lot of Italian Americans who live on Staten Island, so they wanted to name the bridge after an Italian. They chose Giovanni Verrazano, an explorer from the 1500s, looking for a northwest passage. He came up here, saw the huge harbor, said cool lake, and turned around and went home. I don't know if he was running out of wine or if this is white, but he went back to Europe. And then the next time he was out, he was south of Florida, and he ran its cannibals. And it can be argued that Giovanni is the first to introduce Italian food to Americans. Where the bridge is where the big ships coming in from Europe would have come through, and they would have seen the Statue of Liberty. Emma Lazarus wrote a poem about the Statue of Liberty. The famous lines, "Give me your tired, your poor, huddled masses yearning to breathe free," depicting the Statue of Liberty as a welcoming beacon to immigrants to their new home in America. We're going to go by the statue on both sides of the boat. I'll let you all enjoy Liberty Enlightening the World. Protect neighborhoods from flooding in the future. Another building from the War of 18 called Capitol Clinton in the tree. And then we got all those trees at Battery Park. Battery Park is all landfill, so they plowed down all the hills flat in 1811. They had to do something with the land, so they made the island bigger. So that's landfill. And then the island itself, Manhattan, is about 20% bigger. And the Brooklyn Bridge is coming up. The Brooklyn Bridge was completed in 1883, after 14 years. A long time to finish building. John Augustus Roebling designed the bridge. He invented the steel cable, which made it possible to hang the bridge across the Waterfront River. The steel cable also made it possible for the elevator, and that made it possible to build buildings to follow the front people inside there. We did skyscraper, J. Roebling. Roebling died before it was completed, and his son Washington Roebling took over. Washington fell ill and started trying to work on the bridge from his bedroom window with a telescope, and then he would dictate to his wife what needed to happen. But some days he wasn't feeling well enough to even do that. So his wife, Emily Warren Roebling,
just wrote the letter to Mel. Eventually, Emily Warren Rowley became the acknowledged director of the Brooklyn Bridge. So she finished it. She was the first to ride across it. She arrived in a horse and carriage with a live rooster on her lap, the symbol of victory. And she waved to all the men she worked with on the project, and they tipped their hats to her and gave her a standing ovation. She was the one who made the bridge happen. Some people think it should be called Emily's Bridge. On the Manhattan side, we got the Staten Island Ferry, the Orange Ferry, and then just to the right of that is the Governor's Island Ferry Terminal, the green building with the pink bays. This is my favorite building in Manhattan. I just love the cast iron work. I think it's beautiful, and they did a restoration in 2020. They did a really nice job. They put a glass commercial space upstairs with a hotel and fancy Italian restaurant called Cipriani. So on a really great tip day during the holidays, I might take myself out there and enjoy being in my favorite building. So that's the green building with the pink bays. Just that cast iron. I'm just into it. On the Brooklyn side, the Brooklyn Tower is coming into view. That's the big black tower, kind of ominous structure. People say it looks like the Tower of Bogor without the eyeball. People really hate it. They hate it so hard. It's our newest skyscraper in Brooklyn. And I was giving a walking tour, and some people were meeting on the building for like 5 minutes. And then another guest asked me what I thought about the building, and I said, well, it's new. People don't like new things. And I tried to play it diplomatic. And then he said, I want to do that. Oh, we're getting on the floor. I love it. I love the Gothic design. I love the asymmetrical angle. And it's got some copper stripes in it, just like the Statue of Liberty. Right now, those copper stripes are like a new penny, but in the future, it will patina and they'll have green stripes, which will be really cool. So it's like a big black ominous building that's going to come in and out of view on the Brooklyn side. It's tall, so we'll be able to see it for quite a while on the Brooklyn view. On the Manhattan side, we're coming by a beige building that's got some scaffolding at the top of it. To the left of that building is Wall Street, where they built the wall. And as we come parallel, if you can look down that street, you'll see Trinity Church, again, a Gothic kind of style church at the end of Wall Street. Trinity Church has Alexander Hamilton buried there, as well as Robert Fulton, who ran the ferry boat system going across the East River before the Brooklyn Bridge. It was a 12-minute ferry ride. The Brooklyn Bridge was built because the river froze one winter and you couldn't get the ferry across anymore. And they're like, I guess we need a bridge. So I'm at the front of the boat, almost parallel with that white building for Trinity Church. So there it is, I'm at the front of the boat. We start looking to the left of that building. The white building with the scaffolding on top. It's just the left the white building. And then past Pier 15, where the home floor Infinity is, right behind it, there's a building that's under construction that doesn't have all the glass on it yet. That is our Leaning Tower of downtown. They stopped construction in 2018 because the building was leaning to the right 8 inches more than it's supposed to. They went for a cheaper foundation and trouble. Glass doesn't fit anymore because the angles have changed. People have purchased apartments. They didn't get all their money. They got some money back, but not all of it. There's a lot of lawsuits on our Leaning Tower of downtown. 161 Maiden Lane. If you want to look it up, 161 Maiden Lane. Didn't get any money. We could use a little help with the foundation. On the Manhattan side, you can see a wavy apartment building. That's by the architect Frank Gehry. We get a nice view of Civic State again at the base of Brooklyn Bridge on the Manhattan side. The city offices building. And then this short brick buildings is the historic district of South Street Seaport. Great restaurants, bars. And here's the Brooklyn Bridge. They would call People's Day. And more than 150,000 people walked across the bridge the day it opened. The decades after the Brooklyn Bridge opened, a woman was interviewed about the landing on the moon. And she was asked, what did you think? And her response was, nothing compared to the day they opened the Brooklyn Bridge. Give you an idea about how significant it was for anybody to be able to just walk from Brooklyn to Manhattan. You didn't have to pay, didn't matter. You could just go whenever you wanted. On the Manhattan side, the next base of the next bridge is a building we call the Cheese Grater Building. It's got offices and apartments in it. And that next bridge is the Manhattan Bridge. So we got 3 bridges here. Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Williamsburg. We call it the B&M Building Bridge. The Manhattan Bridge gives us the name of the neighborhood in Brooklyn, which is Dumbo, down under the Manhattan Bridge overpass. We have some other silly names for neighborhoods: Tribeca, the Triangle below Canal Street, and Soho, south of Houston Street. We do call it Houston. I'm so sorry, Texas. I know you call it Houston, but I grew up in a house, not a house. It's fine. Two places should have different names. Behind the carousel is a wide brick building where you see the people standing at the top of the brick. There's a food court up there, a food hall called the Timeout Market. So that's a nice place to dine. And then if you have a little more money, where all the umbrellas are on top of the glass, that's the Soho House, which is an exclusive club in New York City. So if you have access to that, I would love to come. We're gonna go to the Manhattan Bridge. We'll take a break here until we get to the next bridge, the Williamsburg Bridge. We'll go by power station that they're tearing down, and they're gonna replace it with the power station, and then also go with the breakfast. The concession stands are open down there, and we have the restaurant one line. So the Williamsburg Bridge is coming up. It connects Williamsburg, Brooklyn on the right side, Stone Garden, Metropolitan Street Arch, and then the Lower East Side on the Manhattan. Lower East Side had a lot of different communities living in it over the years, but the Jewish community still has some businesses open on Houston Street from the 1890s. Cass's, which is known for its pastrami and cold beef, corned beef, also their hot dogs. Russ and Daughters, which is bagels, cream cheese, and lox. And then Yona Schimmel's knishes. And a knish is like a mashed potato ball rolled with fried and dough with some cheese. It's right up there with like right below Tom. Am I like that? Barely. Queen Planet is on the Blankford Bridge. We got the Domino Sugar Factory here on the right. The Domino Sugar Factory is where all the sugar used to be milled in the 19th. Sorry, my microphone. Fix that. The Domino Sugar Factory where all the sugar used to be milled before the 1970s when it was abandoned. Then the building was gutted, reinforced, and they built a commercial space that the top of the side the Domino Sugar Factory. They were going to use the exterior originally, but they couldn't remove all the sugar, and sugar is flammable, so they crumble it. And, you don't really want that as the exterior of your building. On the Manhattan side, they're building a 8-foot seawall to protect the neighborhood from flooding. There's usually park there. They took out the park and they are going to put it back on top. It's supposed to take them 4 years to do the entire stretch of waterfront over here. I'm going to give them 10. They say that, but they are doing pretty good work. I mean, it's quite quick. The neighborhood on the Manhattan side is called the Alphabet City. It's where the island of Manhattan kind of bulges out, and you get further east than First Avenue. So you get Avenue A, Avenue B, Avenue C, and Avenue D, Alphabet City. Most of this is public housing projects. We call it NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority. Go to New York City and you're looking for a new apartment, like something you saw on television, you can expect to pay about $3,500 a month minimally for like the dream apartment. You can find apartments for less. They're going to be not a whole lot of great light because you're in the basement or there's a brick wall outside your window, a walk up, no elevator, you got to go up the stairs, or it's far from the subway or far from Manhattan. So if we go further away from Manhattan, it's going to be cheaper. It's really all about the commuting distance. So if you're in this neighborhood right across from Manhattan, like you're 2 blocks back, so you're not waterfront, but then you have like a 15-minute walk to the nearest subway or a 10-minute bus ride to the nearest subway. Then you have to take a 30-minute subway into Manhattan. That's far. You know, even though you look like you're close to Manhattan, you are far to getting to Manhattan. Unless you're by a ferry boat terminal. Ferry Manhattan. The other thing in New York that you're going to look for housing-wise is a rent control or rent stabilized apartment. They implemented this after World War II and housing prices were going up low for a certain number of people. So not all apartments, but a percentage of apartments have rent control, rent stabilization, which means when your lease comes up every month, they can only raise it a small percentage, like 3 to 6%. If you don't have a rent stabilized apartment, they can do whatever they want with your lease when it comes up. They can raise your rent $500. You have no control. So rent stabilization is the way to go. So we're coming by the power plant Con Edison, which is still operational today on the Manhattan side. And then on the other side of it is Stuytown, which is a portable World War II veterans housing, originally built as. And I have a friend who lives in Stuytown. He's been there for 30 years. He has a 1-bedroom apartment there, and he still pays less than $1,000 for his 1 bedroom because he's been there for 30 years in a rent-stabilized apartment. So that's the way to go. And if you have relatives who have a rent-stabilized apartment, if you move in with them before they die for a year or two, your primary residence is their house. You can take over their rent-stabilized. That's how a lot of New Yorkers are rolling. My grandparents had a rent-stabilized apartment in Forest Hills when I was growing up, and I still dream about it. They died when I was a teenager, so no hope for me. But it is incentive to take care of your elderly, move in with them, take over their lease. Queen had 2.5 million people living there, and 5 million people buried there. There's a lot of cemeteries in Queen, so come the zombie apocalypse. Don't find yourself in Queen. It's gonna go down. My grandparents were buried there too, and they were wild when they were alive. I don't need to run into them later. Down on the waterfront, there's a big wide building with no windows facing up ahead. And that's the United Nations building. I think it's too far away. I'll tell you again when people go. The neighborhood on the Queens side is called Long Island City, or LIC. It's new development. Mostly it was historically it was industrial and shipping. I showed a picture of it to my mom, and she was like, "Where's that?" And I'm like, "That's Long Island City." She was like, "No, it's not." I had to change it. Don't need that happened now. There used to be a Pepsi-Cola bottling factory over here, and they left their sign behind. So up ahead, it's Pepsi-Cola sign. Coming up, there's a crooked building that's attached to another building with a sky bridge. The crooked building, it's called the American Copper Building. It's an apartment building. The sky bridge is going to come into view, has a 75-foot lap pool in it and an outdoor terrace space on top. That you can add on to the rent of your apartment. To live in that building, a one-bedroom averages $9,000 a month, which, like I said, it's $1 million waterfront property, you know? You can find cheaper, just not what you're going to see on the boat. So the Chrysler building's coming in and out of view, Art Deco top, and then the building with the diamond on the side of it is the JP Morgan Chase building on Park Avenue. It's supposed to be completed next year. And the big building with the big white wall facing us on the waterfront, that's the United Nations building. They didn't want any country to have the advantage of a corner office. So you can either see east or west, no corner office. I still think having a higher view might be nice, but maybe the elevator ride advantage. I don't know. The United Nations building is the tall, blue granite slab in the wide building below, and the parking floor. That's all the United Nations. An ancient sewer. You want to learn more, check out. So behind the front of the building is the number 1 Vanderbilt. United Nations, Chrysler, and Vanderbilt are all on 42nd Street. And we got on the boat on just the far end of the island. Pepsi-Cola signs on the right side of the boat in Queens. Now we have built an apartment, grocery stores, restaurants, rooftop bars, all the different kinds of worship you can imagine, including Starbucks. And Cornell University just opened up a new satellite campus on the island. Where we do have one of the old smallpox hospitals still around. The building is covered in ivy, just past the landmark here. It's designed by James Renwick, who also did St. Patrick's Cathedral over by Rockefeller Center. So famous architect from the 1800s, the building's falling down, and so we don't let any humans go near it, but the cats have taken up residence. You cannot stop cat people, so they're dropping off catnip and cat food, and now there's an official cat sanctuary next to the ivy-covered building on Roosevelt Island. Roosevelt Island is accessible via the subway. A train has a stop there. There's a bridge on the other side of the island. This bridge that we're coming under is the 59th Street Bridge, or the Queensboro Bridge, also called the Ed Hodge Bridge. That's one of our mayors, White. And then just this side of the bridge is the new building of Cornell University's new satellite campus. Cornell University is the second Ivy League to have education in New York. Number 1 is Columbia University. Roosevelt Island is also accessible via an airtram, a little red box, like this guy. Just on the far side of this bridge, we'll look up and you can see a cable. You might be able to see a little red car from the side too. I had a friend who took small children on the river, over the river, and under the river, the way on the ferry on the airtram. So that was fun thing to do. So we'll just come up and go over bridge here, New Jersey Bridge, and the air tram. We'll take a break until we get to the top of Roosevelt Island up in the round seats. If anyone has any questions, we'll catch up with you in time for Gracie Mansion at the top of the island. Rất đẹp lắm. Rất đẹp. Cái chó. Ôi, là đẹp quá. Cái này cấp. Mà đấy. No actual roller coaster, just art on the Manhattan side. I'm sorry, disappoint the roller coaster fans. And just the cables, no cable car in the the cable car is passing now back behind us. Look back on the Manhattan side.
Right turn, okay here, but people's $1 side of the bank. No, baby, nice. No. You're good? Yeah.
It'd be simple like that. I'm being, I'd rather even do that. I'm just saying, but I don't know what you doing.
Like a rồi nhìn là làm gì anh có không biết cái quan trọng rồi không?
Right here, my
Đất. a young reporter named Nellie Bly was undercover as a patient to expose all the horrible freaking patients there. And her editor was supposed to bring her to get her out after like 3 days. And for some reason, she was there for like a week. And she witnessed a whole lot of atrocity. And when she finally was taken out, picked up, she had tons of stories to tell of rotten food and ice baths and electrocution, like horrible treatment. So she wrote a series of articles for the newspaper. She was like 21 years old. And her articles went on to change legislation for how people get treated in mental health facilities. And so at the tip of Roosevelt Island, actually, you can see there's a flag sticking out of a cupola on Roosevelt Island. That's what's left of the Blackwell Asylum building. And at the tip of Roosevelt Island, there's going to be some faces and some globes, and that's a memorial to Nellie Bly. On the Manhattan side, just past the flagpole up ahead, you'll see a white tent. That's coming up in a little bit. And just past the white tent, to the left of it is the yellow mansion in the street. And that is Gracie Mansion, where the mayor is offering housing. And our mayor, Eric Adams, is living there. One of his predecessors, Bloomberg, did not take us up on it. He thought this up with he didn't take it bye-bye. Gracie Mansion does have tours, but look at their calendars if they're seasonal. So at Roosevelt Island, you can see the Nellie Bly Memorial, the little lighthouse. And then on the Manhattan side, coming by, you'll see the flagpole. And we'll have to be like kind of passing it in order to see Gracie Mansion on the Manhattan side. We're not quite there yet. You jumped the gun. So you can see the yellow building through the trees just past the flagpole. The Gracie Mansion was originally downtown. And then Robert Moses kind of moved up here for, I think it's Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia's moved into it during World War II. So there'd be an extra ski route on the waterway here. Most of New York was down lower Manhattan, and then it slowly grew up this way, especially after the subway was introduced in 1904, connecting Harlem with the rest of the city. As we're coming, we're going to take a fork in the road, the river. The East River splits off. We're going to go up the Harlem River, which is the left fork. The right fork takes us out to Long Island Sound, past Rikers Island, which we're not going to today. They do have ferry boats that ride past it to our desperate Rikers Island in the water. We have two bridges. The first one is the Triborough Bridge next to the borough, the blue one, between the Bronx and Manhattan. Triborough Bridge. I love the name. Functional. They're trying to rename it the RFK Bridge. They didn't post the sign. The Triborough Bridge is now called the RFK Bridge. I'm like, do you spend money on these signs? Like, really? And it's transition. I don't know how long they're expecting that transition to last. And then just past the Triborough Bridge, the red bridge, the arched one, is a railroad bridge called Hellgate. And between the two bridges, there's a park on the right side. That's Astoria Park. I used to live in the far side of the park. It was an hour and 10-minute commute to the boat. I just couldn't take it anymore, and higher powers in New York City granted me an apartment in Hell's Kitchen, and although it's expensive, it is glorious. So not I'm like, I'm 20 minutes years dark. I suppose to an hour and 10 minutes. And they're like, when the tide's down. But off to the right here is Mill Rock Island, one of our tiny islands. That's a bird sanctuary. We did have a guest the other day ask me if any islands were for sale that you could name after yourself. And I'm like, I feel like it's a little too late for that, but maybe with enough landfill, you can bring one of them above the ground and find an island to name after you. We're moving from the Upper East Side on the Manhattan side to East Harlem, or Spanish Harlem. Harlem originally started at 96th Street, and then was pretty far more. The 125th Street was the main drag, but it's kind of gentrified over the years. So we're going under another bridge here, another island off to the right, Ward's Island, and again, no private residences. So some ball fields, water treatment plant, which is a nice way of saying sewer treatment. And then one of our mental health institutions, which I think is now being used as general housing or public housing. I'm not. They got fed. It's not mental health. So the bridge we're going under here is the pedestrian bridge from Roosevelt Island. It was featured in the movie The Wiz with a young Michael Jackson and Diana Ross. This was the Yellow Brick Road. Ease on down the road. Come on, ease on down the road. Don't you carry nothing that might be a load. Come on, ease on down the road. So this is the Yellow Brick Road. The Wind is on Broadway Neighborhood Revival. Want to hear the song one more time? You can. On to the right, we have a equestrian pool. I don't know what they're teaching the horses, but they seem pretty happy. And that's our institutional facility, which I think the beds are up for grab. They say we're short on beds. It's hard to look at that building and feel like we're short on beds. I'm sure they're just short on staff and band that like run. We're coming up on Harlem. The neighborhood of Harlem was built in the Northern community in the 1800s, and then it became Irish and Jewish, and then during the Great Migration, it became a black neighborhood. Then we have the Harlem Renaissance happened in the early 1900s, from art, music, and literature coming out of Harlem. Today, the Apollo Theater is still open on 125th Street. If you want to go to a show, be in the historic spot. I mentioned it's gentrifying. In the 1930s and 50s, East Harlem, the lower end of Harlem, became predominantly Spanish. We see a lot of people migrating from Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic to East Harlem, the Lower East Side, and the area around the Spanish neighborhood. The Lincoln Center area, where we get the story of West Side Story, which signal me, the white man with about a neighborhood, a Spanish neighborhood, yelling burrito. So today, the neighborhood's turning, I don't even know if it's necessarily becoming white, it's just becoming more expensive. And Whole Foods has opened up on 125th Street. So, you know, times are changing. 125th Street is looking at the heart of Harlem, although a lot of small businesses didn't make it through the pandemic, so it's kind of in a shifting spot. There's still some great historical tours of the neighborhood, because there's still a lot to be seen and talked about. It's just you walk down the street and you don't necessarily know what you're looking at. And there's some great restaurants, there's food tours, have some great churches, and then on Strivers Row is a old historic neighborhood of brownstones, just some beautiful homes up in Harlem. And they were built with alleyways, which is true decadence in New York, because our grid system didn't allow for any alleyways, so we ignored our garbage. Here with his brother to start a farm when we were under Dutch rule during the New Amsterdam days. He came up pretty far north, and he was granted 500 acres of land, but he realized that there were people who were on that land when he arrived, and so he agreed to give them half of his harvest every year as like payment for being there. And he had a very successful farm. However, he did not deliver, so you had to come to the Bronx's farm to get your goods. BRONCK''S, the Bronx's. So eventually the Bronx's just became the Bronx with an X at the end. That's where we get the name the Bronx. We're going to take a break here until we get up to Yankee Stadium. I'll be around if you have any questions. Enjoy the Harlem River.
You have that.
On the right side of the rock side, the Yankee Stadium is in the picture here. The Yankees originally played, they were a good team, at full rounds of the Giants baseball stadium in Manhattan. And when they were new, they weren't very good at the team, so the Giants didn't care if they were playing there on their off days. But then the Yankees traded an injured pitcher who went on to run more home runs than the rest of the league, Babe Ruth. And they started winning games. And the Giants were like, you can't play at our stadium anymore. You gotta go build your own stadium. So they moved across the Harlem River, the Bronx, and built their original Yankee Stadium. That's what they call it. How that Roosevelt had to require build a stadium. The smokestacks on kind of the bat tape going up it is where the original Yankee Stadium was. And now we have the current Yankee Stadium. It's labeled. It should be coming into view for most of you. Can't find it. Check with your neighbor. The Yankees had a lot of great players over the years. Yogi Berra is one of my favorites because he had some really strange things that he said. I was trying to figure out if he was serious or if he was trying to crack a joke. They called them yogisms because he said so many of them. Things like, if you see a fork in the road, take it. Nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. And the fans don't want to come. We can't stop them. You better cut the pizza in 4 slices. I'm not hungry enough to eat 6. I asked my mom what Yogi was up to, if he was stupid or he was trying to be funny, and she was like, Yogi was a catcher. He got hit in the head a lot with a baseball. And I was like, good enough for me. So Yankee Stadium. If you are going to go up to Yankee Stadium, there's 2 different subways that'll take you up there, the D or the 4. The 4 train is part of the original subway lines that was built in 1904, the number trains. And then the letter trains were built second by a separate company. And they said, the number trains are so overcrowded, why don't we make our trains bigger? So they bought bigger train cars and built wider tunnels. So the D train is actually about 2 people wider than the 4 train. So if you have the choice of which train to take up Yankee D, I always end up on the 4, and I'm like, why? So crowded, but either one will do. The subway had a couple different companies that built it, and then they were all united by Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia during World War II. Prior to that, you had to pay to transfer between the company lines. You couldn't transfer for free between letter and number trains. And it wasn't until the 1980s that the map that we all know and love today was created by the city. Prior to that, it had some private companies that had created their own maps, but the city didn't actually put forth a map that united all the different train lines until 1980. The 1980s, and at that time the printer press only had 7 colors, so we had to figure out how to put all the lines using 7 colors. So it's a bit madness. Just know that it wasn't all one company that designed the system, and that if we had it to do again, we'd do a loop like London or Chicago, and there's still a chance to loop it up south of Central Park down to World Trade One, but it's going to take some money. We'll see. Just know that I'm the one putting it out there if it happens. When you or someone from the Northeast, when the Dutch were here, there was a man named Jan Kees, and he was really annoying. And they would start saying to one another, "Don't be such a Jan Kees." And eventually, Jan Kees became kind of a derogatory name for a person of this area. Don't be a Yankee. Jan Kees, Yankee. If you notice the water tower, how the building did with water tower. This is the one when we're over back on the Hudson. But in New York, after the American Revolution, New York City outgrew its water supply, and we started polluting the water supply that we had. And people started becoming illusionized and becoming murderous in a lot of people. So people turned beer with it. That's it. They would drink. Or even the school children who have not left beer at less than they started doing water. So in the 1880s, Program did a hot water, spring water, to people in Manhattan. There were 40 miles of the state. So the bridge that we're coming up on is part of that original aqueduct that's in Independence. These are Roman arches designed on the Bronx side. And then the high tower on the Manhattan side, that high tower was the high point for the water to get up into the water towers on top of the buildings using water pressure. And still use a similar system design today that doesn't require pumps using water pressure. We still have a lot of wooden water towers on top of buildings that are operational, and any new building today that's being built is still required to have a wooden water tower as part of the construction in case the pumps fail. We choose wood for the water tower because it's one of the last materials you freeze and also has kind of an antimicrobial property to it. So that's High Tower, and this is High Bridge, which was closed for the longest time. They didn't reopen it with the country. On the right side of the boat, we're coming by Roberto Clemente State Park. Roberto Clemente was a baseball player for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He died in a tragic accident delivering relief supplies from Nicaragua. The plane crashed, and he was the first Puerto Rican baseball player to be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. So this state park is named for him. On the Manhattan side, we're coming by the Peter J. Sharp Boathouse, where a lot of crew teams put in their boats. The Peter J. Sharp Boathouse was restored a couple years ago. It could use another hit of paint, it looks like. But a surprising character came on the scene to fund that restoration. Bette Midler. Because you are the wind beneath my wings. Fly high, so high against the sky. You let me fly so high. Oh, you. Thank God for you, the wind beneath my wings. So we got two Broadways in New York. We got Broadway the Road and Broadway the Show. In order to be considered a Broadway theater, you have to have 500 seats or more and be on the island of Manhattan. We have over 40. And if you have between 100 and 499 seats on the island of Manhattan, it's off Broadway. And 99 feet left on the island of Manhattan is off Broadway. When I got the job on this boat, I heard that there were over 500 seats, and I said to myself, oh, Alexis, I think this might be your Broadway debut. And I told my boss that, and he was like, I'm so sorry, like, you were not working on Manhattan. You were working on the Hudson, which is off Broadway. And I was like, so close. Oh. That's okay, my one-woman show would not have run this long on Broadway, so it all works out. The other Broadway is Broadway the Road, which is a walking trail from the base of Manhattan and went all the angle and therefore uptown and kind of northeast. But if you argue with the New Yorker about it, they will simply say Manhattan is the center of the universe, and therefore uptown is north. So now we have three norths: Magnetic North, True North, and Manhattan North. Broadway predates the grid system in New York City and goes off in its own direction. It goes towards True North. So if you find yourself walking on Broadway, you can pay homage to the millions of people who have walked that path long before it was paved with cement and covered with neon lights. We're coming by the 207th Street shop, which is where all the subway cars go for maintenance and for a little cleaning every now and then. Maybe a new paint job. They've been covered with graffiti, which hasn't happened in a while, so it's nice shift. They also have a historic collection of train cars. So if you see a video or a movie that's filmed on a historic train car, they shot it up here. If you want to go visit a historic train car, the New York Transit Museum is in Brooklyn, and they have a collection that you can walk through. Pretty cool experience, the New York Transit Museum. So we still got the Bronx on the right side, part of the continental U.S., and the bedrock over there is called gneiss. And the Manhattan bedrock is different. It's called schist. So we have gneiss and schist things. When you could even make it across the waterway. But that meant it wasn't boat friendly or ship friendly. And of course, the merchant wanted an easier path for the ships. So they carved out this part of the river that we're in to make it boat friendly. We know you can't walk across the river anymore. But the riverbank is not natural. And when they did that carving, the waterway originally kind of went a little further north. And there was a tip of Manhattan that was shaved off and put on the Bronx side of the river. So a little bit of Manhattan shifting. The Broadway street, we could have navigated the water over here. But clearly you can't anymore. And just past it is the Marble Hill neighborhood. It's our lowest bridge, so I always enjoy going under it because it's kind of, close. It's nearby. And we'll come into a part of the river that's called Spite and Duivel, which means in spite of the devil, Old Dutch. And there'll be a big C on the cliff side. That's for Columbia University. And I'll catch up with you in just a little bit.
On the Manhattan side is Columbia University's athletic complex. Their main campus is down on 114th on the west side, but they put their athletics up here.
So we're back out into the Hudson. We're gonna take a left. We took a right. We head up under the Mario Cuomo, the Tappan Zee Bridge up there. And then if we kept going, we go by Sing Sing, our prison, and also West Point, the military academy. So if you heard the phrase, they sold me up the river, Sing Sing's the prison, and this is the river. The George Washington Bridge is in the distance. We're gonna go under it. That's the bridge we saw in the beginning of the tour. The George Washington Bridge is technically incomplete. They stopped construction. It was the war, and they were like, "Does it work? Does it function? We just need to take supplies over it." And they were like, "Yeah, but worse." And they were like, "We don't have time. We don't have the money. We just need it to be done." And so they just stopped construction. It's technically incomplete, kind of naked, if you will. We were never meant to see the crisscrossing work on of the metal on the towers, but people loved it. They loved it so much, people copied this bridge all over the nation after it was completed. We're coming by Inwood Park on the Manhattan side, and then we got the Palisades on the New Jersey side. There's all those beautiful trees which turn colors in the fall for beautiful foliage. We do fall foliage tours up to Bear Rugs. That's it. New Rugs. And then his son, John D. Rockefeller, and his wife Abby did the MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art. They had a lot of money. Let's talk about, there were a lot of wealthy families in the United States. When you go on vacation, maybe you collect shot glasses or magnets or t-shirts or postcards. So the cloisters, they bought up all the land around it and they kept it undeveloped because they were like, well, I just feel like the medieval times. And then they were up in the towers and they were looking over at New Jersey and they were like, wouldn't it be nice if all of that stayed undeveloped too? So they bought up all of the Palisades. All of this waterfront property, they bought it, and then they gave it to Jersey. And they're like, here, New Jersey, keep it safe. Don't build on it. Yeah, no taxes. They just gave it away. So pretty wild. Just to the right of the cloisters on the next hill is where the cat. You feel like the Metropolitan Art Museum is missing a shuttle service. Like I felt this way when I came to visit in like the early 2000s. So, like, why isn't there a shuttle service? They clearly don't care if you make it up to the coast. So we're coming up on the George Washington Bridge. It's actually called the GWV. The neighborhood on the Manhattan side is called Washington Heights. In the Heights, we use full spaces in this neighborhood. And then on the New Jersey side, this town is called Port Lee. Just next to the Manhattan Tower is the Little Red Lighthouse. Little Red Lighthouse. The children, they were actually going to tear it down more recently. And the little children were like, "Don't tear down Little Red Lighthouse. It means so much. They understood the dread of children." And they sent their letters to the judges, and the judge ruled, "Okay, we'll save the Little Red Lighthouse." And then somebody came on the scene to raise money to restore the Little Red Lighthouse. So you guess it? Bette Midler. I don't know what I knew about these kids. I just sticks in my mind. I'm like, really? Bette Midler? Okay. I thought she's doing that. She's just restoring little kids in a small building. But we come over the party. I don't know. We'll take another little break here. I'm around if you have any questions. We'll point out Grand Tomb, and then I'll come back up for about a half hour. I found out the sending in lottery out, but it was like, Mom, we bet they hold it for me. And I was like, what? But it was amazing and also horrific. I have to watch it, right? And I don't know what they did, but give it to the person who used it, please. Alas. Luxury here in New York. So it's really hard to live in New York. You have to work hard to make enough money to live in New York. So it's kind of a cycle, right? You don't really want to be here in order to make it worthwhile. Yeah, they haven't gotten it back up to par. So I grew up on the West Coast, just out of Seattle, and my mom's from Queens. She hitchhiked across the country when she was 19 and raised me out west. There's been rumors about her being cold and unfriendly out there because she's a New Yorker. And I was like, how did she stand it? And my New Yorker friend was like, she is a New Yorker. She doesn't care what I was like, oh, right. So that little intro, but doesn't kind of care. I came out in New York where I'm considered friendly, and I'm not too much. On the West Coast, not much. So I love it out here. I was a theater kid out west before I came out this way. But then I just went tour guiding, and I was like, this is not so bad. I don't have an audition, I don't get rejected. I'm like pretty good. So I appreciate you all being here. If you're looking for public transportation, when we get back to the pier, there's 2 buses that pick you up right by the pier. You get to the end of the pier, there'll be a photo crew in red with your official Circle Line photos if you want to look at them again or you haven't seen it. And then there'll be some taxis, and then there's the buses. The N42 goes across town on 42nd Street, and the F50 goes across town on 50th Street. The buses cost $2.90. You can tap your credit card, your bank card, or Apple Pay, or you can swipe your Metro card. They do not take cash on the buses, the crosstown buses. They're about admission. They just want to go downtown, give you change, right? So that's an easy way to get back to Times Square or any of the other subway lines. I just take either bus because they're like that being short walk different as opposed to the 20-minute walk back to Times Square. Goes like this. Bum bum ba da dum bum bum ba da dum bum bum ba da da da. Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. I want to wake up in the city that never sleeps. To find I'm king of the hill, top of the heap. These little town blues are melting away, right to the very heart of it. New York, New York. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you. New York, New York. Thank you. Thank you for being an excellent audience. Appreciate you. The triangular building on the waterfront is the Via Apartments. It marks the beginning of 57th Street, which is at Billionaires Row at the base of Central Park. It is going to take us just a minute to pull in and get a tie up and get a gangway so you can get off the boat. So if you can just hang tight, we appreciate that. If you love the tour, we love to hear from you on TripAdvisor. My name's Alexis. If you did not love the tour, please call me Duffy in your review. That's my boss's name. Please and thank you. If you love the tour, I'm going to be down on the bow as you're disembarking. If you feel like sharing any appreciations with me, I'd be happy to accept those as you are getting off the boat. Please also watch your step.
Oh,